She kissed me on the forehead that morning. That's how I knew something was wrong. Tessa hadn't kissed me like that since her grandmother's funeral. Soft, slow, like she was saying goodbye without making a scene. I didn't flinch, just kept stirring my coffee, pretending not to notice the tiny flake of lipstick she left on my skin. Cinnamon rose. The same one she wore the night I proposed. She said she had a long day ahead. Some regional strategy meeting. I nodded. She picked up her bag, paused like she forgot something, then left. 15 minutes later, I found her scarf still hanging by the door. The blue one I got her in Asheville. She never forgot that scarf. I didn't go to work. I couldn't. Something in my stomach. No. Deeper. Told me today wasn't normal. So I sat in that stupid kitchen chair, still warm from where she'd just been, and waited for something to make sense. At 11:17 a.m., it arrived. A bank notification pinged my phone. Thank you for your purchase at Jolie's Cafe, $27.90. 2 meals. Jolie's was a small, sit-down place. Cloth napkins. They don't even do takeaway. I hadn't been there in years. Not since she told me the vibe was off. I stared at the charge for a long time. Then I did something pathetic. I drove there. I don't know what I expected. To catch her? To walk in and see her laughing at a table for two, holding someone else's hand? Jolie's was almost empty by the time I arrived. The waitress told me, kindly but firmly, that they don't give out customer details. So I ordered nothing. Just stood outside, across the street, and watched the reflection of the door in a puddle, as if the truth might float up and explain itself. That night, I said nothing. She came home late. Said the meeting ran long. She smelled like wine. Not our kind. Not the cheap red we always bought in bulk. This was sharp, white dry. She didn't notice I'd cleaned the whole house. She didn't ask why I was still in my work clothes. She just went straight to the shower and hummed something off-key. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the water run. At 2:43 a.m., I opened my notes app and typed, "How do you leave someone who's already left you emotionally, but still lives in your house?" At 2:44 a.m., I erased it. The next morning, I left. No suitcase. Just my wallet, charger, and coat. I backed out of the driveway slowly, hoping, I don't even know what, that she'd come outside. Stop me. Ask where I was going. Say something. She didn't. 3 months passed. Then came the knock. And everything I thought I knew unraveled, because what she brought with her wasn't an apology. It was a confession. I didn't open the door right away. It had been 3 months since I left that house. 3 months since I walked away without a word. And yet, when I heard that knock, not frantic, not angry, just 3 soft taps, my body froze like I was standing at the edge of some cliff I never meant to revisit. Tessa stood there like no time had passed at all. But it had. You could see it in her eyes. Not just tiredness. Something behind it. Like regret that had metastasized into something heavier. She looked older and younger at the same time, like she'd been living in a different calendar from me. She was holding a plain white envelope. No label. No writing. Just trembling in her hands like it weighed more than it should. "I won't come in if you don't want me to," she said. "But I need you to read this." I didn't say anything. I stepped aside. She didn't look around. Didn't comment on the mess or ask about the smell of instant noodles and burnt coffee that had become my perfume since moving into Wade's guest room. She just walked to the small table by the window and placed the envelope down like it might explode if she dropped it too fast. Then she sat, crossed her legs, uncrossed them, folded her hands. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but nothing came out. I didn't sit. I stood across from her, arms crossed, waiting. Not for an apology. I was past that. What could she say that would make any of this okay? "You should read it now," she finally whispered. I picked up the envelope, half expecting it to be full of legal documents. Divorce papers. A cease and desist. A paternity test. I don't know why my mind went there, but it did. That's the thing about silence. It becomes a breeding ground for worst-case scenarios. Inside, there were 4 things. A photograph, 2 printed screenshots, and a handwritten note. I looked at the photo first. It was grainy, taken through what looked like a car window. But the subject was unmistakable. It was her. Tessa, sitting in a restaurant booth with a man I'd never seen before. He had his hand on hers. She was laughing, eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. And just like that, the pain came roaring back. But then I noticed something strange. The timestamp on the bottom right corner. It was from over 2 years ago, long before the receipt. before the missed breakfasts, before she stopped laughing at my jokes. I looked at the first screenshot. It was a message thread. Tessa's number. The name saved on the screen was Declan. I scanned the text quickly. Declan, I told you it would catch up to you. Tessa, you said you deleted everything. Declan, I said I would delete it. I didn't say I did. Tessa, please, I'm begging you. This will destroy everything. Declan, then maybe you shouldn't have played both sides. My heart dropped. Not just from the words, but from the tone. The panic in hers. The coldness in his. Whoever Declan was, he wasn't just some affair. He was something worse. Someone who held power over her. The second screenshot was shorter. Just one message. Declan, TikTok. And then the note. It was short. Just her handwriting, messy and rushed, like she didn't have time to rewrite it. It wasn't about falling out of love. It was about protecting you from something I never should have gotten close to. I made a mistake, a dangerous one. I thought walking away from you would keep you out of it. I was wrong. Please, don't ignore this. It's not just about us anymore. I sat down. Hard. The room felt like it tilted. My brain started racing, trying to connect dots that didn't exist yet. Who was Declan? What did she mean by both sides? What had she done? Why now? And what the hell did she mean by, it's not just about us anymore? I looked up, and she was crying. Silent tears, the kind that just spill without sobbing. And for the first time in months, I realized she looked scared. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Terrified. I didn't come here to win you back, she said quietly. I came because I think something's about to happen. And you deserve to know why I really left you before it does. Outside, the wind howled, slamming a loose shutter against the cabin wall. Inside, everything I thought I knew about our breakup cracked wide open. I should have asked her to leave. That's what any rational person would have done. Tell her to pack up her cryptic little envelope and take her unfinished story with her. I'd spent 3 months rebuilding the fragile shell of a life after she shattered it, and now she wanted to drag me back in with vague warnings and teary eyes. But the truth is, I didn't ask her to leave. I just sat there like a fool while she reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, not part of the envelope. This was separate, and laid it on the table like it was her final card in a losing hand. Declan used to be my client, she said. When I worked freelance, I did branding for startups and some less official ventures. He came to me through someone I knew in college. Said he ran a series of consulting agencies. It was a lie. All of it. I kept silent, partly because I didn't trust my voice, but mostly because I could feel the familiar war rising inside me again. The one between the part of me that still loved her and the part that wanted to scream in her face. I didn't know what he really did at first, she continued. But once I did, it was already too late. He threatened me, Everett. Not with violence, not directly. He said if I ever backed out, he'd leak everything. My client files, fake invoices he'd sent using my name, emails he'd edited to make it look like I was complicit. I swear I never touched his money, but he made it look like I had. I unfolded the new paper. It was a wire transfer record. Large amount. Account listed under her maiden name. But the routing info didn't match any of our banks. Tessa, what the hell is this? I finally spoke, voice hoarse. Are you telling me you laundered money for some psycho? She winced, but didn't deny it. Not willingly. I didn't realize what he was doing until after the third payment. By then, it was either keep going or lose everything. My license, my career, my freedom. You should have told me. I snapped. I tried. Her voice cracked. 12 times. But every time I got close, he'd do something to remind me how deep I was in. He sent a USB drive to my office once, full of fake receipts and doctored messages. He knew your name, your job, our address. I panicked. I stared at her, trying to find even a fraction of the woman I once knew. The woman I married. The woman who used to tuck her feet under my legs on the couch when we watched old sci-fi movies. But all I saw now was someone I didn't recognize. You didn't just lie, I said slowly. You vanished inside your own house. You let me believe you were cheating on me. You made me feel insane. Her chin trembled. I thought if you hated me, you'd stay away. That was safer than dragging you into something I couldn't control. But now he's losing grip. People have been arrested. 2 of his shell businesses were raided. I think he believes I said something. I shook my head. And did you? No, she whispered. But I might have to. She reached across the table, sliding a flash drive toward me. This is everything. Screenshots, emails, proof that he faked documents in my name. I was going to give it to the authorities, but if anything happens to me, I need someone else to have it. Someone who knows the full story. I didn't touch it. You're asking me to get involved in something criminal, I said. After you burned our marriage to the ground and disappeared like I didn't matter. I didn't come here for forgiveness, she said, wiping her eyes. I came because I'm scared. Because whatever comes next, you might get caught in it anyway. That part hit harder than I expected. Because deep down, I always feared that one day the doorbell would ring and it wouldn't be her. It'd be police. Or someone worse. I looked out the window. The road was empty. No headlights. No surveillance vans. No gunmen in black SUVs. Not yet. But something about the way she watched the trees, like they might start whispering her name, made me realize. She wasn't being paranoid. She was being hunted. And I had no idea what I was supposed to do with that. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. Tessa stayed on the couch, wrapped in a blanket she found in the hall closet, the one I hadn't washed in weeks. I sat at the table staring at the flash drive she left in front of me like it was some kind of cursed object. My hands itched to plug it into my laptop, but my gut screamed not to. Because deep down, I knew once I opened it, I couldn't pretend this wasn't real anymore. At 3:12 a.m., I poured myself cold coffee and went outside to breathe. The air was sharp. Still, no wind, no sound, just the quiet kind of night you only get in small towns like Blackwell, where nothing ever happens until it does. I sat on the porch swing, feet barely moving it, eyes fixed on the gravel driveway. My brain kept circling the same question. Why now? Why did she come back after everything? Why drag me into it if she already had everything she needed? Unless she didn't. Unless she thought someone was watching her. Unless she thought I was the only person left who would still care enough to help, even if I hated her. By sunrise, I gave up pretending I had any strength left. I went inside, plugged the flash drive into Wade's old laptop, and started reading. The folder was named Insurance. Inside, there were hundreds of files. Images, PDFs, email chains, audio clips. She hadn't been exaggerating. There were documents with her name forged across the top, photos of Declan meeting with men who looked like they belonged in glossy political brochures, not courtrooms. And audio, short but damning, of him bragging about laundering through nonprofits and claiming Tessa was always in the loop, even if she pretended not to be. She had been trapped, but that didn't erase what she'd done to me, what she let me believe. At 8:05 a.m., I heard a sound that made my blood freeze. Gravel crunching. Not the wind. Not an animal. A car. I moved fast, closed the laptop, shoved the flash drive back into my pocket, and looked out the window through the curtain. It wasn't a cop car. Wasn't Wade's truck either. It was a black sedan, windows tinted way darker than legal. It pulled halfway into the drive and stopped. Engine running. I didn't move. Neither did the car. Then it backed out slowly, turned, and disappeared down the road. No knock. No window rolling down. Just a silent warning. We know? I turned to find Tessa standing behind me. She looked like she hadn't slept either, but not from guilt, from calculation. Like she was already 10 steps ahead of whatever just happened. They found me, she whispered. You think that was them? I asked. She didn't answer. Just walked past me, straight to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water with hands that visibly shook. I shouldn't have stayed the night, she said. I shouldn't have come here at all. No. I snapped, my voice louder than I meant it to be. You shouldn't have lied to me for a year and made me feel like a paranoid idiot while you were in the middle of some criminal circus. Her eyes flashed. Do you really think I wanted this? That I wanted to involve you? You already did, I said. When you dragged that envelope to my door. When you gave me this. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and set it down between us. She didn't pick it up, just stared at it like it was radioactive. I left you because I thought it would keep you safe, she said. I couldn't trust anyone. I didn't know who Declan had in his pocket. Maybe I still don't. And what now? I asked. You want me to play whistleblower while you go back into hiding? No, she said, her voice turning low. I want you to come with me. I laughed. Not a happy laugh. One of those sharp, humorless sounds you make when you think someone's lost their mind. I'm not going anywhere, I said. You disappeared from my life without warning. You broke everything we had. You don't just show up 3 months later with a flash drive and expect me to be your sidekick in whatever mess this is. Her voice broke then, not loud, just raw. I didn't come here to ask you to save me. I came here because you're already a target. I blinked. What are you talking about? She pulled her phone out of her coat, unlocked it, and held it out to me. A message was open. It had no contact name, just a number. Funny how fast you left town, Everett. Hope your cousin's porch swing is comfy. I stared at it, my mouth suddenly dry. She whispered, "They've been following you too." I didn't respond right away. My eyes were still locked on her screen, reading that message over and over, as if maybe a new version of it would appear and make it all a joke. But there it was, someone out there had named me. They knew where I was. And worse, they knew I didn't. Tessa stood across from me, hugging her arms like she was trying to fold herself out of existence. "That text came in last night," she said, voice flat. "I didn't want to show you until I was sure it wasn't a bluff. But then the car showed up." I took a breath, slow and bitter. "You told me coming here would be safer. That you didn't want me involved." She gave a hollow laugh. "There is no not involved anymore, Everett. You think Declan doesn't know you were married to me? That you lived in the same house where half the data on that drive was created? You think you're not part of the file?" I wanted to argue. I really did. But my legs gave out before my words could catch up. I sat back down in the wooden chair, the same one I used to read in, back when my life was dull and unremarkable and safe. "You should have let me stay gone," I muttered. She didn't answer. The silence between us stretched long and raw, like skin pulled over a wound. I watched her through the reflection in the microwave door, her posture, her fingers tightening around the glass of water she'd barely touched. I wasn't sure if I wanted to shake her or hug her. Maybe both. Eventually, I asked the only question that mattered. "What do we do now?" Her eyes lifted to mine, and for the first time since she walked back into my life, she looked like someone with a plan. "We leave. Together. Today." I nearly laughed again. "What, just vanish? Pack a couple of bags and hit the road like fugitives?" She leaned forward. "I have a contact. Someone outside the country. Declan doesn't know about her. If we can get across the border, she can help get everything into the right hands. Interpol, private investigators, people who don't have compromised departments." I stared at her like she was insane. "You want me to flee the country with you?" "Yes. After you destroyed our marriage, made me feel like garbage for a year, ghosted me without a word, and dragged me into the middle of a federal-level crime scene?" She didn't blink. "Yes." I stood and walked to the bathroom, not to think, just to escape. The cabin was small, but somehow even that 10 steps away felt like a different planet. I closed the door, leaned against the sink, and looked in the mirror. There I was. Same face, same tired eyes, but something about the man in the mirror looked older, like I'd skipped 5 years without asking permission. My jaw tensed. My hands were shaking. And behind all of it, this growing, festering fear that maybe, just maybe, she was right. That if I stayed, I wouldn't just be a witness. I'd be a liability. There was a memory I hadn't thought about in months. Back when we were still happy, really happy. Tessa had dragged me to some overpriced antique market. I'd wandered into a stall filled with old clocks and busted compasses. She picked up a cracked mirror and said, "People never see what's behind them. That's why they crash." Back then, I'd laughed. Now it made too much sense. When I came back into the living room, Tessa was already packing. She hadn't asked for permission. She was moving fast, military efficient, grabbing her coat, her backup charger, the files. Her wedding ring was still gone. "Wade's not here," I said. "We'd have to take his car." "I already took the keys," she replied. "They're on the counter." "Of course they are," I muttered. She looked at me again, really looked this time, and something in her expression cracked. Not pity, not guilt, something worse. Grief. She didn't say sorry. She didn't try to explain again. She just held out a folded slip of paper. I opened it. It was a printed list of addresses. Safe houses. Contacts. Drop points. A name circled near the bottom, Marisol Gray. "She's the one who can end this," Tessa said. "But she won't meet just anyone. She trusts me. Barely. If you're with me, she'll listen." I stared at the name. It meant nothing to me. Just another ghost in a web of lies. Then the lights flickered. Not off. Not fully. Just a brief, unnatural flutter, like something sucked the electricity out of the walls for half a second. We both went still. Tessa walked to the window, barely nudged the curtain aside. Her face went pale. "They're here." I didn't ask what she saw. The look on her face told me more than words ever could. Her hand dropped from the curtain slowly, like letting go of it too quickly would trigger something. She turned to me, lips pale, breath tight. "One guy," she said. "Driver's seat. Just sitting there. No plates." I didn't bother asking how she knew he wasn't lost. Tessa had always had a gift, reading situations faster than anyone I knew. That used to be something I admired. Now it terrified me. "What's the plan?" I asked, my voice lower than I intended. "We take Wade's car, and we don't stop until we hit the next state line," she said, already moving. "From there, I call Marisol. She'll tell us where to go next." I followed her to the door, heart pounding. My body was working on instinct now, adrenaline shoving rational thought out of the way like it was furniture in a burning house. Wade's keys were already in her hand. "Back out slow," she said. "Don't give them a reason to move. They're watching. They won't act until they know what we're carrying. That's our edge." "Edge?" I snapped, grabbing my jacket. "We're in a cabin in the woods with a flash drive and one phone. They've been following me. They probably know the make and model of my toothbrush. How the hell is that an edge?" Tessa didn't flinch. "Because they still think we're scared." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the only sound that didn't feel like static in my head. We got in the truck. It was old, loud, and slow to warm up. But Wade was meticulous about maintenance, and that thing could handle mountain roads like a beast. The moment the tires hit the gravel, I saw it. The car, parked down the slope, far enough to pretend it was coincidental, but angled directly at us. I couldn't see the driver's face, just a faint silhouette behind the glare of the sun bouncing off the windshield. Tessa rolled down her window halfway, gave a slow, deliberate wave. The car didn't move. I pulled out like we were going for groceries, heart hammering against the inside of my ribs. I kept my hands loose on the wheel, eyes flicking between the road and the rear view. Nothing. No engine starting. No door opening. Just stillness. "Keep going," she whispered. "Don't look back." "Not yet." I nodded, fighting the urge to floor it. The dirt road wound down into the valley. Tight turns, sharp bends. Nowhere to gain speed safely. Trees pressed close on both sides, casting flickering shadows across the windshield like strobe lights from another world. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Still no one behind us. I let out a breath. Maybe they're waiting for us to lead them. "No," Tessa said. "They're baiting us." I glanced at her, meaning, they want us to feel safe. To drop our guard. They'll tail us later, or already have a second car further down the road. Declan always played long games. He doesn't chase people. He corners them. I gripped the wheel tighter. We reached the highway, finally merging into early afternoon traffic. I kept to the middle lane, staying below the limit. The truck wasn't subtle, and the last thing I needed was to get pulled over for speeding. Tessa opened her phone again. I watched her face as she typed, short bursts of motion, thumb darting across the screen. Then a pause. Then another tap. Her brow furrowed. "What?" I asked. "She's not responding." "Who, Marisol?" "She's always online. Always." I messaged her on Signal. Nothing. I called, straight to voicemail. That never happens. My throat dried out instantly. So what does that mean? Tessa didn't answer. Instead, she reached into the glove box and pulled out a prepaid phone. Flipped it open. Dialed from memory. She pressed it to her ear, waited, then muttered, "Please pick up." 1 ring. 2. Click. Voicemail again. She hung up. I stared ahead, unsure whether I should be afraid or furious. "Tell me we're not running towards something worse." "We don't have a choice," she replied. "If she's burned, we switch to Plan B." "And what's Plan B?" I asked. Tessa hesitated. Her silence filled the cabin like poison. Finally, she said, "We go to him." "Who?" She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. "Declan." The name hit me like cold water. "You want to run to the guy who's been threatening you? The guy who's probably following us as we speak? If we disappear now, he'll think I leaked something. He'll retaliate. Against you. Against Wade. Maybe even people we haven't thought about yet. If we show up instead, if we get ahead of the narrative." I cut her off. "You think he'll just welcome us back and call it even?" "No," she said softly. "But he'll listen. And if I can get him to say the wrong thing, I can record it." I stared at her like she'd lost her damn mind. "So your new plan is to bait a criminal who controls law enforcement, has half the city on his payroll, and tried to erase you into a confession?" Tessa looked at me with eyes I hadn't seen in a long time. The same eyes she had the day she quit her agency job to freelance, filled with equal parts fear and fire. If we don't fight this, it swallows everything. I turned back to the road, heart racing again. A familiar road sign passed us by. State line, 2 miles. We were almost out of Blackwell. Almost free. But somehow, freedom didn't feel anything like safety anymore. We crossed the state line with no chase, no black sedans in the mirror, and no texts from unknown numbers. Just silence, which was worse, because silence meant someone else had taken control of the narrative, and we were now reacting instead of leading. Tessa directed us 2 towns over, to a rundown industrial zone just outside Baxter. There's a halfway house here, she said. Not for people. For data. This guy used to clean digital trails for Declan before they burned him. If he's still alive, he owes me. She wouldn't tell me his name. Said it was safer if I didn't know it until we were inside. The building looked like nothing. A boarded-up HVAC warehouse from the 1980s, weeds climbing the brick, metal shutters rusted shut. I parked around the back where the asphalt gave up and became dirt. She got out first, phone in hand, and sent a quick text. Then we waited. 2 minutes passed. Then the side door clicked and opened an inch. A hand stuck out and motioned us in. No face. No voice. Inside, the air smelled like old wires and mildew. Everything was lit by ancient fluorescents, the kind that buzzed like flies in your ear. We passed a row of file cabinets, then turned into what looked like an office but felt more like a bunker. Computer towers stacked like furniture. Ethernet cables snaking across the ceiling. A space heater next to a desk covered in peanut butter wrappers. And behind it, a man in a hoodie, with hair that hadn't seen a brush in years, and dark circles under his eyes that looked tattooed on. He didn't introduce himself. Just looked at Tessa, then at me. Didn't think I'd ever see you again, he said. Tessa didn't smile. I need a bypass and a trace. One clean, one dirty. He looked at her for a beat longer, then motioned toward the only chair without duct tape on the cushion. Sit. We didn't have time for pleasantries. He started working fast, typing, scanning drives, muttering things under his breath that sounded like code names or access points. Tessa handed him the flash drive, and he inserted it without flinching. Do you know what's on this? He asked. I know enough, she replied. He nodded slowly, then looked at me. And you? You're the husband, right? I didn't respond. He chuckled. Yeah, you've got the eyes. The ones that still think this is about betrayal, not survival. He turned back to his screen. You're in the deep end now, friend. And there's no lifeguard. Then his expression changed. He stopped typing. What is it? Tessa asked. He turned the monitor toward her. It showed a single folder, not from the drive. From his own system. The timestamp was fresh. Less than 2 minutes ago. Someone pinged this terminal, he said. That drive has a backdoor. When I accessed it, it triggered a beacon. They know we're here. Tessa's eyes widened. Declan. He didn't answer directly. Just pulled the drive and tossed it across the room like it might catch fire. Get out. Now. If you want to make it to the end of the day, you both need to disappear again. We need a location, Tessa snapped. Where is he? Doesn't matter. It does to me. He hesitated, then sighed. There's a private club in Harridan's Bluff. Real old money. No signage. No menu. Just a black door under a green awning. That's where he hosts his quiet meetings. You show up there. You don't leave unless he wants you to. Tessa turned to me. That's where we go. Like hell it is, the text said. You walk into that place, it's game over. You're not built for war. No, she said quietly. But I'm built for regret. And I'm done carrying it. We left 10 minutes later. I drove. Tessa stared out the window. Neither of us spoke for a while. Halfway to Harridan's Bluff, she said, You don't have to come inside. I kept my eyes on the road. You knew I'd follow you. You're counting on it. She didn't deny it. We arrived just after dusk. The club was exactly as described. Black door, green awning, no sign, no windows. The kind of place you only find if you're invited. Tessa pulled out a lipstick I hadn't seen in over a year. Cinnamon Rose. The one from that last morning. Don't say anything unless I cue you, she said. And don't react, no matter what he says. He feeds off emotional tells. I gave a short nod. We walked in. A man in a tailored gray suit met us just inside. He didn't ask our names. Just looked Tessa up and down, then stepped aside. She walked ahead. I followed. We were led into a lounge that looked like the inside of a painting. Deep green walls. Gold accents. Thick drapes. Music playing low. Old jazz that made my skin crawl. Everything reeked of curated wealth and dangerous calm. And there he was, Declan, sitting in a wingback chair, sipping something clear from a cut crystal glass. He smiled when he saw her. "Tessa," he said, "I didn't expect you to bring your shadow." Then his eyes turned to me. And for the first time since this all began, I understood why she was afraid. Declan didn't stand when we entered. He didn't need to. His confidence filled the room before his voice even did. The man radiated control, crisp suit. Watch that probably cost more than my car. A calm so deliberate it bordered on rehearsed. But what struck me most wasn't the power. It was the familiarity. The way he looked at Tessa. Not with anger, not even curiosity, but ownership. Like he was still convinced she belonged to him somehow. "Tessa," he said again, dragging out her name like a melody. "You could have stayed quiet. You had a good thing. Freedom, money, security. And now," his gaze flicked to me, "you bring this man back into it? Brave or stupid, I can't tell which." She didn't blink. "I came to end this." He laughed softly, swirling the ice in his glass. "And what? You? Me? The truth doesn't die just because you walk away, sweetheart." "I'm not here to walk away," she said. "I'm here to talk." "Talk," he smirked. "Or confess." Tessa took a slow step forward. "You know, Declan, for a man who claims to control everything, you talk too much." His smile faltered for a fraction of a second. It was small, but I caught it. And so did she. That's when she placed her phone on the table between them. Screen facing down. Flashing faintly green. "Recording. Smart," he said, eyeing it. "But predictable." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You think I care what you recorded? You think anyone would believe you? You're already discredited. A ghost with forged accounts and a husband who ran the second things got hard. You were never a threat, Tessa. Just leverage." I could feel the words cutting into her, but she didn't flinch. I wanted to lunge across the room, to grab that smug grin and erase it, but she gave me the smallest shake of her head. "Don't move." "You're right," she said softly. "I was leverage. But that's over now." He tilted his head, curious. "And why's that?" "Because I stopped being afraid." She pressed her thumb against the phone screen. A chime rang. The lounge lights flickered once. Declan frowned. "What did you?" Before he could finish, the door behind us opened. Two men in plain suits stepped inside, followed by another, an older man with a badge clipped to his belt. "Declan Reeves?" the officer said calmly. "You're under arrest for financial conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice." Declan stood up fast, knocking over his glass. "This is a mistake," he barked. "You don't know who I—" The officer cut him off. "Oh, we do. We've been waiting for your voice print for months. Thank you for confirming it." I turned to Tessa, stunned. She didn't move, didn't gloat, just exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. As the agents cuffed him, Declan's glare found her again. "You think this fixes you? You think this erases?" But the door shut before he could finish. Silence filled the room again. A real silence. One that didn't hum with tension or fear. Just relief. I finally spoke. "You planned this." She nodded. "I knew he'd track us. I wanted him to. The flash drive was bait. A trail the Bureau could trace once he bit." "You worked with him?" "Eventually," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "After you left, I realized I couldn't keep running. I reached out to someone I used to trust. They helped me set it up. But I couldn't be sure it would work unless I made him talk. That's why I needed you here. He'd never believe I came alone." "So I was bait too," I said quietly. She looked at me then, really looked. Eyes full of exhaustion, sorrow, and something like gratitude. "No," she said softly. "You were my anchor. I would have lost my nerve without you." The agents led Declan away. The door closed. The music still played faintly from a record player in the corner, skipping every few beats. Tessa reached for my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For all of it. For making you believe I didn't care. For thinking the only way to protect you was to hurt you." I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. This woman who had shattered me, rebuilt herself, and somehow still carried the same spark that once made me fall in love with her in a quiet, rain-soaked bookstore years ago. "Finally," I said, "you should have trusted me from the start." "I know," she said, "but can I try again?" Outside, sirens faded into the night. A new sound replaced them, faint, but steady. The heartbeat of a city returning to normal. We stepped out into the cold air, both of us unsure of what the next day would bring. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking behind her or away from her. We were walking side by side. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the ache and the history, I realized that maybe this wasn't the story of how she broke me. Maybe it was the story of how we finally stopped running.